So I was not planning to stop and open figures in the middle of doing the shelves. But then I walked by something in Target, and I had to have one for my shelf. Let's talk about it. That there is Kryptonite Doomsday. Not to be confused with regular Doomsday, though if we're being completely honest, there isn't enough difference for me to worry about it. I wanted a Doomsday for the shelf. I did. I considered it a couple of times, but I saw like the Injustice one and thought, I don't know. And then I come across this one. And wow. This is supposedly from the Superman and Batman comic, which I did read. Oh, it's been a long while, but I did read Superman, Batman. I don't necessarily remember this. I'm wondering if I read it and it kind of passed by, and then when it was done, it was like, cool. And then we moved on. Let's be honest about comic books. Part of the reason why we can read 1,000 books and then remember 5 events is because comics do this. Comics like to go and go and go and go and go, and very few of those books have any real lasting power. There was an event. Bad guys got punched in the face. There was a super bad guy. He got punched in the face. We tend to remember some things about comics, but if we're being brutally honest about this hobby, 80 to 90% of all the comic stories you will ever read just kind of blend in and become one big long narrative that you kind of remember a lot of things. But then there's probably 10, 15 things an issue that you are never going to remember. And sometimes that comes down to the bad guys. And this, for some reason, I don't remember him. I do not remember Kryptonite Doomsday. Though, I feel like at the same time, he was probably just Doomsday, and he had some green, and then we made him a bigger deal than he probably was, and then we moved on, and of course we saw Doomsday again and again and again and again and again. What I find interesting is that look how big he is. I remember this was the first comic books. This is how I got into comics. Superman was my first comic book. And Death of Superman was where I started. Those were the first ones that ring in my mind that I remember getting, being serious about, reading, and keeping. I think I had other comics before. A couple Turtles, some random things like that, but nothing that made me be like, oh, I'm going to hold on to this. This started me in comics and kept me there for a very long time. And looking at this, if this is any kind of actual scale, I tend to remember Superman and Doomsday being roughly the same size, Doomsday being a little bit bigger, and Superman and Doomsday punched each other to death. This reminds me of what happened with The Thing. The Thing used to be a little bitty rock man. He was like the smallest dude on the team. Then, over the course of many arcs, they just made him huge. And he was a huge rock man, bigger than anybody on the team. You know, I prefer him that way. This is one of those subtle changes that were made throughout comics that at this point, it's weird to see him as a little guy. I would rather have a big, huge rock guy. And if I'm being honest, maybe Doomsday, maybe it helps him to be that much more imposing if we do take the same concept and make him bigger over time until this is just the normal way we think about him. Regardless, let's open this monster up. Okay, so there he is, and let's start by giving thanks to McFarlane for giving us this tiny stand just about the size of his foot. Like, not that it won't help, but it is kind of goofy. I doubt once this is in that it will make any real difference, and he doesn't seem to need it. That's a plus anyway. So look at this comparison. Like, wow. That is hardcore. Now, Superman can fly. So when we get into this kind of a thing, if we are going to take a pose or something, maybe we have him like this. Now, before we even get this pose part, he does move pretty well, but also he's still kind of rough. And I think that just comes down to his size. You know me, I'm not too into being like a toy reviewer, but we have the splits here for the most part. We have a single jointed knee, and that's it. That's the best we're getting out of him. We have the ankles, but I don't feel any rock. A little bit, but it's very, yeah. His arm, oh, come on. That's it. That's it. His hand does have movement. See, you can see his, but it's, I mean, this guy is a big dude and he only moves so well. Like that is kind of fine right there. And you're hearing him pop and everything like that. It's not even so much that he's like stiff. That's not even the problem. I'm not worried about like breaking him, like, oh man, we got to break him out or whatever. No, he's just a big, big dude. He has severely limited movement, and he's resistant because he is such a big, big dude, okay? And on top of that, he hurts. I know that's weird, but he hurts. All these spikes and everything like that, they're pretty tough. And you feel them on your hand as you manipulate him. Like, this isn't so bad. These really aren't that big of a deal. But all these little things, like this part right here, that's very solid. There's like little imperfections in his skin, which are points. Like that's a point right there. These are points right there, and they're hard points too. So they feel rough. Now, he didn't come with anything. He came with this. This is it. This is him. Here we are. Does his mouth, does it articulate? It does, but you'd have a real tough time making anything out of it. See, there's that. But I don't know what realistically you're going to get out of that. The level of detail is real nice. For a figure that was only about $40, so he's on the high end of what I'm normally comfortable with. I am most comfortable between the $20 and $40 range. Once I step out of that range, I am taking chances. That's the way I am. I don't mind buying an $80 figure here and there, but once I step out of the $80 range, I am taking chances. And they don't always pay off. It's just the way that it is. So, let's get this real quick, okay? We got like here. We want to get his arm up. Ugh, and it came off. Okay. Put that back in there. There, like this. See if we can't get something going here. Maybe step forward with this foot, because he's lifting up that way, maybe. There, let's get you kind of moving into an actual well-placed uppercut. Because the uppercut, that's part of how it works. You turn the body into it and you lift up with it. So we got a decent pose right here, and Superman flying to get this lifting punch right here. He's kind of going for the same thing. He's jumping up, but if we're looking at this real close, Superman is not going to get that hit first. Okay? But that's fine, because this is one of those things that's nice for interpretation. When you do a pose like this, you want people to kind of look it over and really think about it. Right now, he's already on full forward momentum with his hand swinging out, and he's already full cape in. Let's bring that down like this. There. He's full cape in, cape out, already jumped up, feet left the ground. That moving towards his face. Who's going to get that hit first? One could argue that if Superman is fast enough, he can get this fist to that face before this fist comes around and connects with his entire body cavity. Whoever gets this shot is getting a real shot. That's cool. That's in real time, simple figures, very easily. Got a really solid action pose, and it wasn't hard to do. And one of the things that I judge figures on is if in real time we can get a solid pose without having to break our butts over it. Because sometimes figures, either they don't look good, or they don't cooperate, or they don't move well enough to get anything worth taking aside from, look, he's standing. This is good. And that is Kryptonite Doomsday. Guys, on this channel, I've already talked many times about how I started in comics. I've already talked many times about Doomsday. And I would like to throw in one little piece here before we go, because anybody that's been around this channel for a while understands that when I review toys, the review is only a small segment in the middle. Otherwise, these are really toy podcasts. It's an excuse for me to talk about toys and talk about the fandom that inspired why said toy is important enough to put on my shelf. And I would like to say, Doomsday, his existence should be used sparingly. I think that Doomsday is one of those things that has become oversaturated and has lost its impact value. He comes in and he fights Superman and he punches him to death. Impact made, big deal. Idea, I got it. He shows up, big deal. At this point, and I get that it's been a long time. I get that I'm an old man. I get that I'm 40, and I probably read these books all the way back when I was, 9 or 10? I get it. It's been 30 years. But we've watched clone Doomsdays get killed on Themyscira. We've seen him in almost every Superman series, and he's almost never worth it. Now, I have not seen the Superman and Lois. I'm interested to see that, because when he was, oh my gosh, talk about a mishandling in Smallville. Doomsday showed up. He got defeated by Clark pushing him. Done. I waited so long for Doomsday in that series, because I was realizing they're just going to go through the whole of Superman and fight all of his villains and deal with everything, and he's never going to wear the suit. He's already Superman. Let's just do it. I get it. This is a never wore the costume Superman. Even though they kept hinting at it, and even though at the end they gave us a tiny CGI idea that maybe he was kind of Superman, and we even got to see the suit, we never got to that point. And by the time he would have got to the point of wearing the suit, he's already dealt with all of his supervillains anyway, so who cares? Like, it's you get what I mean. Like, his introduction into the Superman suit is to deal with Apocalypse. Like, that's way too late for the Superman suit. At this point, just let him be Clark, let him wear his little leather jacket and punch everything. But when he fought Doomsday, man, he just comes up and he's like, push! We've already seen him in a movie. We've seen him in a movie, and it's like, look, there are things about that movie I like. I can sit down and watch Batman v Superman, unironically, and go, I like that, I like this, I like that, I like this, I like this. There are all these different little breadcrumbs and pieces and well-shot areas and lines that I watch it and I go, oh, that's it for me, that's so good. But there's also more than enough about that movie that I don't like. So while I can watch it, I have to turn my brain off to do so. And if I ever turn my brain on during the watching of, oh, that's cool, and I like this, and this is a really good idea. If I turn my brain on during those moments, I immediately go, oh. And Doomsday is one of those parts. We have seen a live-action Doomsday, and he was messed up. We've seen multiple comic Doomsdays get punched out of existence. Like, just beat up. Beaten again and again and again and again. We've seen clone Doomsdays beaten again and again and again and again. We've seen movie Doomsday. We've seen series Doomsdays. We've seen multiple animated Doomsdays for both movie animations and series animations. And they tend to do a fairly good job because they often depict their first meeting instead of depicting down the road where we're just punching Doomsdays out. Like, but saying that, just to say this, I feel like Doomsday should have been even more sparing than that. Doomsday, for me, should show up only about once a decade, and DC should hold an absolute stranglehold on that character. I mean, they should hold that character, not let you play with it. And then, when you come in there and you're like, I want to use Doomsday, I have a really good storyline, they should look at their clocks, say, when was the last time we used him? 5 years ago? No, I'm sorry. Bye. Period. I don't care how good your story is. Keep it on the back burner. Wait. About every 10 years or so, Doomsday should be allowed to make an appearance. And when he does, it should be absolute. It should be an absolute world-ending, no joke, this is Doomsday, this is an event. Doomsday punched Superman to death. That cannot be understated. And he didn't do it with kryptonite. He did it with hands. He did it with hands. He took Superman's best punches and gave hands back. Doomsday is no joke. And the more we see him, just like the more we see the Borg in Star Trek, and it starts to diminish what the Borg is, that's how I see Doomsday. I see Doomsday as one of the biggest events in all of DC history, and one of the strongest things in all of DC history. And I feel like we're at a misuse when we take Doomsday and we're like, now he's going to fight this guy, now he's going to fight these two, now he's going to fight this guy, now we're going to clone him and have 50 of them, now he's got kryptonite, now he's under the control of Superman because of injustice, and yada yada. And we just keep using him over and over and over and over and over, and we diminish what he is. Heck, one Superman from the Justice Lords he shows up in Justice League and he just lobotomized him. Beep! Done. I got him. If it was that easy, if it was always that easy, you can't tell me that our Superman couldn't have just done that. He showed up, he was at full game, he started punching. As soon as he realized this guy was a real problem and something was wrong with him, Superman should have put him down. I know that may cause ethical questions, but if it was always possible for Superman just to go, okay, he's a monster, he's nearly brainless, he's literally programmed to kill everything and anything that exists, there's no reasoning here, and he's strong enough to punch me to death, and if I don't survive the fight, he's already taken out the entire Justice League, and he will run wild across the entirety of the planet. I have to put him down. If that was always a thing, Superman should have grabbed him by the arms, threw him up, grabbed him by the face, and beep, lasers, done. Duh. I took care of the monster, guys. I took care of the monster. Look, I'm not saying Superman should kill people. But I'm saying when the situation is very serious, we've seen Superman stop pulling his punches. But when he punches against a guy like Darkseid, he knows that somewhere in Darkseid is a reasonable being that can talk to you. In fact, Darkseid has been reasoned with in extreme ways by characters like Batman, but he has been reasoned with. I will blow up your entire world, give us our stuff. Oh, that's quite the bluff. Who said I'm bluffing? Stops for a minute, calls the bluff, and goes, take the girl. I will not pursue her. Okay, we can reason with him. He is a thinking person. That's not. Kill it. I'm just saying. And if it was always possible to do, he should be dead. If it was never possible to do, because he's that broken, he's that big of a thing, then he should have remained a end of times event. Every decade, pull him out for one event, one thing. Use him, make it good, and guarantee that script. It better get everybody's attention. And I'm not saying always kill somebody. Get everybody's attention. Well, that's all from me. I've rambled enough. I talked about Doomsday. I added him to the shelf. And you know what? He's awesome. Later on, guys.
I have spoken. Take what you will from it.